Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Bottini, Wildlife Biologist with Seatuck Environmental Association. And this is my first attempt at a virtual nature walk, so we'll see how this goes. So anyway, I'm at the outlet of Terry Creek, um, which flows down from Route 25 in Riverhead, and off to my right here is Indian Island County Park. And this is some vacant land. It used to be an old duck farm, I believe, off to the left. And I'm at the intersection with the Long Island Railroad and Hubbard Avenue. So the creek continues off that way into Phragmites Marsh. I just surveyed that section between Route 105 and Hubbard Avenue, and lots of fresh raccoon sign, deer, but I'm really looking for otters. I'm really here to survey for otters, and also alewives. See if there's any alewives coming through here. Now, I did check the culverts. Culverts are nice. They're good size. They're about 5 feet in diameter. And so this is the one under the railroad tracks. And it also goes under Hubbard Avenue. And there's a nice culvert also under Route 105. Suitable for otters and alewives to pass through. And right here, see if I can zoom in on this. Now, can't say that it's about the size of an alewife. The head's missing, which isn't unusual. When there's a lot of fish around, the predators will go for the more nutritious brain material and leave the flesh behind, actually. But that could be a bunker. I can't really say for sure. You got the forked tail that both of them have, and the large scales. I can make out the large scales scattered around. And over here we have, let me zoom back. This is, I don't know if you can make this out, nice line of whitewash here. Staining the gravel. So that would be one of the birds of prey that basically got rid of their uric acid. And then this is really cool. This right here is a pellet. And a lot of you are familiar, I'm sure, with the pellets that owls cough up. Hawks will also do that, and you look for those under their roost trees, which are usually evergreens. And you can find some neat things in the pellets. You can find actually intact skulls of small mammals that they've eaten. So that's material that's undigestible, there's no nutrition, and there's no reason for them to spend the energy passing through their whole body. Look at this. Whoa. Bald eagle. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so back to the pellet here. So this pellet is made up of, it's really lightweight. It's just compressed material. This is all fish scales and fish bones. So this is probably the bird that was perched here and did the uric acid spray, which pretty good size one. So that could be, you know, like great egret. I would venture that as a guess. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at, I was gonna get back in my car and do another section upstream, but I'm looking out here and I see this row of cedars, and it looks like it's a point of land. It looks like there might be a little bit of a marsh to the left of those cedars. That's kind of a good spot to check for an otter latrine. That's really what I'm looking for. I'm not going to see the otters, but I might actually be able to make out their sign. They have specific places where they communicate with one another by leaving scrapes and scent. And the thing that I'm going to be really looking for is the actual scat, which could be fish scales, mostly. Occasionally, you'll have crab. That's fairly common. Um, Crayfish and crab they really like. And then I've only once found feathers. Okay, so there's the culvert under the railroad tracks where we started out, and I'm walking along this nice little, looks like a dredge spoil site. This is Terry's Creek, and there's Indian Island County Park over there. This is looking good. I really like the looks of this in terms of otter use. So scattered cedars, got the creek on the one side, and then we have this big salt marsh on the other side. So this is looking pretty good. And I just came across something over here we'll take a close look at. This is our native cactus, Opuntia, prickly pear cactus. And something actually uncovered the roots here. Kind of neat to see the size of the plant with this big bulbous section here near the surface, and then how long the roots are down into the soil. Of course, this is an adaptation for growing in really dry, sandy soil that doesn't have a lot of moisture. So I don't know for sure. I mean, the fleshy leaves, obviously, for water storage, just like a cactus. Not really sure what the function of this corm or whatever this is here as part of the root system. Might also be for water storage. But I've never seen the root system of the prickly pear. Kind of cool. Okay, so we got lots of deer using, well, not a lot of deer, but deer sign is the most obvious thing. And the waterfowl are coming up here from Terry's Creek. Some scat and a lot of raccoon sign as well. But this is looking very promising. So we'll continue on out towards the point and see what we find. Okay, another nice little stop here. So this is the kind of spot that the otters like to set up a latrine or a scent station. Nice eastern eastern red cedar. And it's close enough to the water. All the otter latrines documented in my study and also in the literature. They're within 5 meters or 15 or so feet from the water's edge. And on high land, dry land, usually in a flat spot so the scent doesn't get washed away by the next rain. Here we have a lot of activity here. We've got some burrowing, and there's some, let's see, find over here. There's some scat right up there. I'll take a walk over there and some over here. This is looking, oh yeah, there's a bunch right here. So, yeah, this is a kind of a blocky mix of vegetable matter, and that looks like all vegetation, actually. And then over here, 2 feet away, this is interesting. This is fish scales, and that's a kind of a big scale. So alewives and bunker have big scales, and also things like carp. You can look at this under a microscope, and the pattern of the scale structure, you can actually key it out to species. But I'm pretty sure this is raccoon. This is a raccoon latrine. So in case if this was an otter latrine, same location, same material, except for the vegetation stuff that we saw in the scat just before. But there would be a scrape associated with this, a really clearly defined scrape in the ground, just like cats do in the litter box. And that's what we'll keep an eye out for. Okay, well, we didn't have to go too far. Only about 30 feet away from that raccoon latrine. By the way, all the otter sites on Long Island are visited on a regular basis, almost nightly, by raccoons. Raccoons have done very well in the kind of an urban, suburban, developed landscape. But what we have here, see if you can make this out, I'm going to zoom in on this, is a bare area, actually two bare areas, and unlike a path, something actually scraped the leaf litter and grasses and made two little piles. Here's the first pile right here. Oh, there's a deer. Just scared deer up. Okay, so we're going to zoom down here. And this area right here has obviously been scraped from one side or the other. And what I'm looking for is the scat that was deposited. And here we go, right here. Sometimes they miss the pile completely, but if you look right here, you can see some fish bones and fish scales. I don't know how well this focuses up close. Not a whole lot, but that's classic otter. So let's see, now we have another scrape here. Zoom back out so you can see that. There's the one pile we just looked at. I'm kind of kneeling on the scraped area. And here's another pile of vegetation. You can see how it's all been loosely pulled together. And oh yeah, here we go. So this is going to be easier for you to see. This is the same, I believe this is the same fish that was found in the raccoon latrine. And the otters can leave a tubular scat similar to the raccoon. Most often I find it's just a splat though. When it's really fresh, it's got a lot of the intestinal lining material that protects them from getting cut by the fish bones and fish scales that gets secreted along with the undigestible stuff. And it's kind of like a greenish, a dark green slime. And after a couple days, that turns a black, and then it becomes like a charcoal gray. And eventually, it gets all bleached out. So this is old scat. It's definitely not fresh. And again, we could take the scales home and key them out. I mentioned that the otter latrines are close to the water, so there's the Terry's Creek right there, steep embankment, and it's kind of under this eastern red cedar. So we're from the high tide line here, we're probably 3 meters. There you go. Cool. All right. This is a new watershed. I have no documentation of otters in Terry's Creek. But while we're out here, might as well continue on out to the end of the point out that way. Yeah, maybe we'll get another view of those bald eagles. Okay, next stop. This is getting better and better looking. So there's Terry's Creek off to my right, and the little spit here that I'm on, point of land, dredge spoil site, is getting narrower and narrower and a little lower. And then we're getting some open water over here. So this is looking real good in terms of otters crossing over. They'll oftentimes set up a scent station or a latrine where they Yeah, they take a shortcut instead of swimming all the way out to the end of a point and coming back up another waterway. They'll just shoot over at the closest point. So continue on up there. But the other thing I just noticed here is a bunch of old turtle shells, and I don't see anything excavated near here, so I'm not sure where this came from. Most turtle nesting sites are very high predation rate, especially with all the raccoons around. Here's some more over here, right there. And in this site, this is a perfect nesting habitat for our salt marsh turtles, the diamondback terrapin. It's another animal that Seatuck is doing a lot of conservation work on. John Turner has been leading that campaign, and I'll mark this out on our citizen science survey as a nesting site, and we'll come back in June and take a closer look. Maybe we could find some actual females in the area. So yeah, diamondback terrapins, really beautiful turtle. It's the only species that lives in the salt marsh year-round. And this is, yeah, perfect spot for them to come up and have their eggs. Okay, next stop, further down. Okay, so I did mention earlier, I mentioned that these eastern red cedars are good spots for hawks and owls to perch, and they're hidden from the crows, which will harass them until they need to move on. And right under this one here, I did find some evidence of this being used as a roost site. So here's some material that an owl coughed up. Not as big as the great horned owl. So this could be the most common owl we have on Long Island is the screech owl. And it's mostly fur, but you know, fair bit of bone material in here. And here's another splat of it. Oh, there's a jawbone right there. You can make that out. Whoops. Yeah, right there. Okay, so it's a nice little find. Okay, and here we have some real fresh deer scat. Deer, you know, then in the winter it's mostly pellets that you'll see. They're eating a lot of buds and more dry material. And this year they're starting to switch over to more succulent vegetation as everything greens up. And it could be more like a, you know, in another couple of months it could actually look like a small cow patty. No real distinguishable pellets. Oh yeah, I wanted to point out something I mentioned earlier about the diamondback terrapin. I can't say for sure that's a diamondback terrapin eggshell. Could possibly be snapping turtle, but in this brackish water here, I would venture to guess that's most likely a diamondback terrapin. Okay, so we're walking along the shoreline. I'm almost out to the end of the point, and I saw this. This caught my eye at the high tide line. And check this out. You see these fine comb-like material? These are attached inside of the gills. So this is a menhaden or bunker. And they're very unusual in how they eat, in that they just swim along with their mouth open, and as they take water in and food particles, as the water then passes through and out the gill slits, the food is caught in these structures. I think they're called gill rakers. And they function actually a lot like the baleen on whales, except the whales don't have gill slits. So as they move along, water goes through the mouth, and normally the gills are designed to take oxygen out of the water, dissolved oxygen out of the water and into the bloodstream. But they also have these structures here to catch tiny little phytoplankton and zooplankton. And you can actually tell which way the school is swimming by the difference in the water clarity in front of or behind the school. Very efficient at filtering out all that stuff in the water. Very cool animal, Bunker menhaden. Okay, so we've reached the end of the line here. And just want to point out the pair of immature bald eagles in the center of the frame here. One is on a branch. You could see it, you should be able to see its silhouette closest to the water. And the other one, kind of tough to make out. It's just about parallel and on the other side, the left side of the same tree. And kind of cool. So we had the adult fly by earlier, and these two juveniles, they won't be ready to breed until they're about 5 years old. And then they'll have the classic whitehead. These guys are pretty mottled. So these might just be like 1 or 2 year olds. And nice little section of marsh here. Anyway, this is Mike Bottini for Seatuck Environmental Association and the Long Island River Otter Project. Documented a new site, a new watershed, Terry Creek for river otter, which is very exciting, and been a good day in the field. So lots of other neat things. Hope you have a good day. Take care.